Thank you for joining us. We really are thrilled to have you joining us for this webinar titled Protecting Immigrant Communities from Scams, How to Spot, Avoid, and Report Fraud. My name is Anthony Salas, and I am the Senior Manager of Events and Membership with Welcoming America. And before I officially kick it over to our speakers, I do want to just go over some quick housekeeping items with you. If you've been on one of our webinars before, you're familiar with. If you have questions at any point during today's presentation, please use the Q&A function that should be along the toolbar and enter your questions there. We're going to queue up all the questions, and then we're going to address them at the end of the presentation when that is over. But again, feel free to enter them at any time as the presentation goes on. And then, of course, we are recording this webinar, and we will make it available to you a few days after this. We'll send it to you via email. It will also be on the Welcoming America website and our YouTube channel, so you can access it in various locations there. But again, as a registrant, we will make sure to email that to you, again, just in a few days. So now I am excited to introduce you to our distinguished speakers joining us today from the Federal Trade Commission, being joined by Rosario Mendez, who is an attorney with the Division of Consumer and Business Education, and Gema de la Heras, Consumer Education Specialist, also with the Division of Consumer and Business Education. I'm very excited to have them join. We've been talking for a few months now, and it's been really great to get to know them and learn about what they're going to share with you today. So I'm really excited to now turn it over to Rosario to start today's presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Anthony, and thanks everyone for attending today's webinar. As Anthony said, my name is Rosario Mendez, and I'm here with my colleague, Gema de la Heras. We both are in the Bureau of Consumer Protection of the Federal Trade Commission, specifically in the Division of Consumer and Business Education. We'll take turns today presenting, so you'll hear from me and you'll hear from Gema. We are going to be covering a lot of information, so I hope we also can hear from you through the chat and questions. Before we begin, I want to say that our opinions today are our own and do not represent the opinions of the Commission or any particular commissioner. So with that, the next slide, please. Today, we're going to hear a lot. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the FTC, and then I'm going to cover some of the scams that specifically we know that are targeting immigrants. We'll cover some resources as well, free resources, and some ways in which we can work together. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the FTC. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, is the nation's consumer protection agency. So we work to stop fraud, deception, and unfair business practices in the marketplace. And we do this in several ways. We do this through law enforcement. So the FTC does investigations to companies and people that break the law and tries to get money back for consumers that were harmed. Many of those cases are based on reports that the FTC gets from people, just like you and the people that you work with. Also, we talk to organizations and to people that work with different communities so that we can hear what's going on in the community and that we get information that way. We also do our work through education and outreach, and that's specifically the mission that Gema and I do in our division, education and outreach. And we do this by telling people about their rights and businesses about their responsibilities. We have information in print, online, and in person. We'll cover some of those resources today. But the goal mainly is to help people understand fraud. I help identify and spot fraud so that they can avoid it when they see it. And that helps protect people and communities in general. The FTC obviously cannot do this alone. This is a big mission. And we work with community advocates just like you. That's why it's so important for us to be here today. And we are thrilled to be sharing information with you today. And we hope to get to know you more. We build partnerships and coalitions to help amplify the messages in the different communities. We participate in conferences. I'm happy to say that I'm going to be going to the Welcoming Interactive Conference in San Jose, so hopefully I'll be seeing some of you there. And, we working together, it helps us expand our reach and have a broader message in the communities that we want to serve and that you work with. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, I will cover a few scams against immigrants and other resources. And then Hema is also going to be talking about how to avoid some of those scams, and also some other common scams that may target everyone, including scams against immigrants. So I'll start with scams against immigrants. Next slide, please. So this is an example of, we see different types of scams against immigrants, and this is one example on the slide. This is a website for services. This is where dishonest people, form preparers, people that they put this website and they would basically say that they could help with, different forms through the immigration process, but they were charging for the forms, and those forms are completely free at the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services website. We were able to identify the scam through reports that we got. And I wanted to show the image because you can see from this website that they were really trying to imitate the US government, and this is a tactic that scammers use. So you see several things here, like a government-like seal, the Statue of Liberty, the American flag. So the overall impression of the website, it appears to be affiliated with the US government. They use websites and URL addresses such as usimmigration.com, immigrationdirect.com, uscitizenship.info. All of these are, they sound like they are affiliated with the government, but in reality, they weren't, and they were charging people for things that they could get for free. So we were able to sue the defendants, the people that were behind this website, and shut it down. The settlement with them bars them from continuing misleading practices and require them to pay $2.2 million to compensate consumers that were harmed by this scam. And we actually were able to send some checks back to people that were harmed, totaling $2 million to the consumers that were defrauded. So that's just one example of a scam that we see. Next slide, please. This is also this is kind of my advice, basically, on how to spot, this kind of fake websites. This is what the real U.S. government website for immigration looks like. You probably are all familiar with it. All real U.S. government website addresses end with .gov. So that's one way to tell people, to avoid the other sites that could end up charging them for things that they can get for free, or they could end up working with a scammer. Again, all the U.S. CIS forms are free. If you have to pay to download government immigration forms, then you're not in a legitimate website. That's another of our messages. People can also make an appointment at the field offices if they can't have the access to download the forms themselves. And we have a lot of information on how to find real immigration information, but there's also, of course, a lot of information in several languages too at the USCIS website, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But that's kind of like our advice on people to how to identify and avoid going into websites that are not federal government. Next slide, please. Notarial scam is something that I saw that there were some questions already about notarial scams in preparation to this webinar. I'm sure you're all familiar with this, but it's another example of a scam against immigrants that we see a lot. In a notarial scam, someone is promising legal help, except that they are not lawyers and they don't have authorization to give that legal help. This type of scammer may be someone from the Latino community. Unfortunately, they may speak the language. So they get people's trust that way by speaking the language and by saying, that they're members of the community and all of that. Of course, the confusion with the notarial scams can happen because in many Latin American countries, a notario público or notary public or notario, it can be someone who has a lot of legal training. In Puerto Rico, for example, where I'm from, you have to be an attorney in order to be a public notary, but not in the United States. In the United States, a notary or a notario público is just a witness to signing official documents. So the roles are completely different. Notarios in the United States are not licensed attorneys and can't give you legal advice. So if people need legal advice about their immigration status, they need to speak with an attorney or people who are designated as accredited representatives. But if they go to a notario and the notario is not accredited representative, then that person is just taking their money and doing nothing. And sometimes that will even hurt the person's chance to immigrate fully. So that's why it's so important to alert people about this type of scam. So what to know? Don't go to a notario for immigration or legal help. That's our main message. Don't sign blank immigration forms or forms that have false information about you or your situation. What we see is dishonest notarios asking you to do that, to sign blank forms or to sign things that are not true in the form. Don't pay for immigration forms. The official forms from the USCIS are free. And don't let a notario or anyone else keep your original documents. We also see that situation happen where they're asking for the original documents, and then people are kind of, lost the original documents that they have. They can't get them back if the dishonest person disappears or closes shop. We had that happen actually in one case. So we have a graphic novel. You see the image there. It's a photo. We call them a fotonovela or a graphic novel that explains a few ways a notarial scam can happen. You can order this fotonovela in print for free, and I will give you the website on how to order it in a minute. But you can use it to distribute it in your community. We also have it in English, only online in English, where you can download it, but you can order it in print in Spanish, and it's helpful to use it in activities and for outreach and to let people know about the notarial scam. Next slide, please. So this is about the diversity lottery scams. You may be familiar with this. The U.S. Department of State manages the Diversity Visa Immigrant Program. Some people call this program the Visa Lottery. It's free to enter. The winners are picked completely at random, and they win the chance to apply to become lawful permanent residents. But scammers try to trick people by charging money to apply to the program. And they also promise special access. They say that they can get them at a high, that they can get them special access, that they can increase the chances that someone's going to win the lottery, for example. So we see all scammers doing all these promises to try to get people's money. What to know? You can only enter the Visa Lottery once a year, and only at the website dvlottery.state.gov. By sending that message to people, we're trying to help them so that they know the truth about the program and how to apply for it. And only if you are eligible, a citizen of an eligible country and meet the educational and work requirements, you can enter. So it's not available for everyone. There are some specific requirements, and it's managed by the Department of State. So that's also creates sometimes confusion. You don't have to pay to apply for the Visa Lottery. The winners are picked completely at random, and no one can influence the results. And you can only find information on the status of your entry at the same website, dvlottery.state.gov. Next slide, please. So refugees and recent immigrants are also targets of scams. For example, scammers tell refugees that they are eligible for a special grant. To get the money, they have to pay a fee first, of course. That's a telltale sign that it's a scam right there. And they have to give them, you have to give them also your bank account for the alleged grant. That's another sign that this is a scam. There is no special grant, and you know that this is a scam because the government doesn't call, text, or email to ask you for your bank account number or to offer grants, out of the blue like that. Or scammers also say that they have a job for you, for the refugees and newly arrived, but you have to pay or give them your personal information up front. Gemma's going to talk a little more about job scams later, but the reality is that we see a lot of job scams targeting refugees and newly immigrants. Unfortunately, if someone tells you to pay them by gift card, money transfer, or cryptocurrency to get a job, to help you with your immigration status, or for any other reason, that is a sure sign of a scam. So what to know if someone reaches out to you about government aid? What our advice is to talk to the case manager at your resettlement agency immediately. Don't pay anyone who asks you to pay, like I said, with gift cards, money transfer, cryptocurrency. Only scammers ask you to pay that way. And you can find out more resources to help refugees and immigrants avoid scams and protect their personal information on our website at ftc.gov/refugee. And we have that information, that pamphlet, in multiple languages. So you can also use that with people that you work with that speak other languages other than English or Spanish. The fraud handbook that I just mentioned, next slide, please. Sorry. The fraud handbook that for refugees and immigrants that I just mentioned has been translated into 12 languages. And in addition to be available at the refugees page, it's also available in our languages page, which is at ftc.gov/languages. On that page, you can also find information about how to spot and avoid scam in general, which includes advice on what signs to watch out for, what to do if you spot those signs, and what to do if you paid a scammer to try to recover some of the money. There may be some ways to recover your money sometimes if you act quickly. Next slide. You know better than anyone about the importance of people getting real immigration help. Of course, only an attorney, as I mentioned before, or an accredited representative working for an organization recognized by the U.S. Department of Justice can give you legal immigration advice. So to help people avoid scams, we have information to help steer people in the right direction and to get advocates help their clients. So you can find those resources at ftc.gov/immigration or in Spanish at ftc.gov/inmigración. Some of the advice includes finding people who can really help you, as in not notarios. Sometimes, too, we see that well-intended help can even hurt people who help fill out forms, but they don't really know how to do it right. And that can cost someone their opportunity to immigrate illegally. So we also see that, and so that's why it's so important to steer people in the right direction to people that actually can help them. And who is that? Immigration attorneys are one source of help. They have to be a member of the professional association in their state. So that's one message. When you look for an immigration attorney, make sure that they're licensed in your state. In our resources, you'll find links to free or low-cost immigration attorneys in the various states. An accredited representative is another person that can help. They're not always lawyers, as I've mentioned before, but they're authorized to give immigration advice. The accredited representatives must work for an organization that is recognized by the Department of Justice and might charge a fee, so people should know that. But it's real help versus, someone that is not authorized. The link to a list of accredited representatives kept by the Department of Justice is also in our publication in our website. We had a question before in preparation for the webinar about the liability for fake immigration lawyers or people who are not authorized to give legal advice, like what happens to them. So I just want to provide one example, is an operation in Maryland that we were able to shut down, Lomas International Business, I think it was called. The defendants in that case misrepresented that they were authorized to provide immigration services, but they weren't. And in fact, more than half of the immigration applications they filed were rejected by the USCIS, unfortunately. So people that really hurt people, right? Their chance to, to stay, to be in the process. The company was shut down. We were able to shut them down, and the owners and the staff are prohibited from continuing these practices. So this is just one example, but we can only bring the cases that we know about. So that's why, we're going to be talking about reporting fraud and the importance of communicating that to us, so that we can try to do something about it. And if it's not possible to do an actual case, at least if we know of a trend of a scam that's happening in the community, we can also put out consumer alerts, and we'll talk about the consumer alert in a minute. The defendants in this case spoke Spanish, unfortunately, and again, they gained people's trust that way with the language and the connection to the community. So it's unfortunate, but it happens, and so it's important to bring these messages to the communities that it's to get real help and who it really are the people that can help you. Next slide, please. And I'm going to pass it on to Gemma, who's going to be covering the next session.
Thank you, Rosario, and hello, everyone. Well, let's talk about other common scams that can target anyone, including immigrants and those recently arrived to the U.S. Next slide, please. For those looking for a job, knowing about the scams that target job seekers will help you and others looking for work spot and avoid scammers. In the next few minutes, we're going to cover how to spot ads for fake job opportunities, examples of common job scams, money-making scams, other ways to spot job scams by how they tell you to pay, and how to avoid job scams. Next slide, please. So these are examples of fake job ads. The wording may change, but scammers always make big promises that simply aren't real. Like you'll get rich just working a few hours a day, or they'll demand that you give them sensitive information like your social security number before they even hire you. If you give it to them, they could wind up stealing your identity. Other job listings may ask you to pay for training or certifications that are fake, unnecessary, or both. So don't pay upfront for training or certifications. And if there's only one thing that you remember about job scams today, this is it. Anybody who charges you for a job is a scammer. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, let's look at a couple of examples of job scams. The details can change, but these are some of the scams that we're hearing about regularly. Working from home is more common these days. Scammers know that, and they're posting ads offering online jobs. They'll say that you can make money doing something like entering data or as a virtual assistant or a mystery shopper. But often they'll say that you can make loads of money in a short time, which is a sign of a scam. Scammers will often pretend to be someone they're not. They may be posting fake ads that offer positions that don't exist. These phony job opportunities come from what you think are well-known employers. They may even use some of their logos. And they offer great pay, flexible hours, training, telework options, and money to set up a home office. It can be pretty tricky sometimes to tell what's a real job and when they're just trying to, take your money or personal information. But there are ways that you can spot these scams. Next slide, please. We also see scams that look like real business offers. For example, some of these include business coaching programs that promise to give you secret to success or help promoting your invention to market your idea, but then don't deliver what was actually promised. Also, opportunities that say that you can make lots of money selling products from home, but then the products turn out to be junk or very hard to sell. These opportunities can look real, but if anyone guarantees that you'll make a lot of money or that you'll be successful, you can bet that's a scam. In business, there are no guarantees, and that's one way to spot a scam. What we see often is that eventually most people that invest find that no matter how hard they work, they can't sell enough inventory or recruit enough people to make money. They also can't make enough money to cover the expenses and have to end up quitting and losing sometimes everything that they invested. Next slide, please. Here's another way to spot a job scam. If anyone gives you a check, tells you to deposit it and then send money back or to someone else, that's a scam. And this is how it can play out with job scams. Your supposed boss might send you a check for several $1,000s, maybe to get a computer or office equipment or products for you to try and review. Whatever the reason, then they ask you to deposit the check and send them part of the money. Or they might say to send it to someone else. Either way, that's where the alarm bells go off, because that check is fake. And by the time the bank realizes that the check is actually fake, the scammer has your money already. And the bank is going to want you to pay them back whatever amount you sent to the scammer. And the job offer that you thought that you had, well, you probably don't have that either. So remember, honest employers won't send you a check and ask you to send part of the money, but it's definitely a way to spot a scam. The next slide, please. Now that you know more about how these scams work and how to spot them, here's some ways to avoid them. Never pay for the promise of a job. Honest employers, including the federal government, will never ask you to pay to get a job. Anyone who does is a scammer. Do some research. Search online for the name of the company or the person who's hiring you, and add the words scam, review, or complaint to your search. See what other people are saying, because you might find out that they've actually scammed other people. Also, check out the company's careers or job opportunities section on the actual company's website. Go directly to their site. Instead of clicking the link that someone sent you, because that could actually take you to the site set up by the scammers. If the position that you're looking at, the job that you're looking at, isn't listed on the company's website, walk away. If it is there, apply directly through the organization's website if you can. And finally, take your time, talk to someone you trust, and describe the offer to them. Ask what they think, because just explaining the offer to someone else, it might give you more time to think about it. The next slide, please. Now, let's move on to rental housing scams and some of the trick that you or someone that you know might encounter if you're in the market to rent. Scammers use a variety of tricks to get your money. Some may hijack a real rental listing and try and change the email address or the contact information. Then they post the ad they've altered on another site. Other scammers will steal the keys from lockboxes, make copies, and pose as legitimate rental agents. And others might list a property that's already leased and then try to collect application fees, security deposits, and even the first month's rent. Next slide. So here are some steps that could help you avoid a rental scam. Number one, don't pay with cash, wire transfer, gift cards, or cryptocurrency. This is a common theme throughout, because anyone who asks you to pay that way, it's a scammer. Don't pay security deposits or rent before you've met or signed a lease. Search online for the rental company, plus words like we said before, review, complaint, or scam. If you find bad reviews, you may want to look elsewhere. And if you see a rental company's listing on an online service like Zillow or Trulia or Craigslist, search the home's address to make sure it appears on the rental company's website. If it doesn't, it could be a scam. And if you can't visit an apartment or a house yourself, see if someone you trust can go and confirm that it is indeed for rent and that it is what was actually advertised. Next slide, please. And here's another type of scam that topped the list of most reported scams in 2022, and is what we refer to as impersonator scams. They can take many forms. It can be a scammer pretending to be the government or a business, or even pretending to be another person, like a romantic interest. We've even seen scammers pretending to be FTC commissioners or staff. They might say there's an award ready to be collected, for a fee, of course, or an outstanding COVID issue requiring your immediate attention, and of course, your money as well. But that's not the FTC or any other government agency for that matter. And another recent twist of the impersonator scams, scammers pose as agents and officers of U.S. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol protection, and they send a recorded message saying illegal items were shipped in your name or have been intercepted. They may say that, talk about a diplomatic pouch or tell you a warrant is out for your arrest. They'll demand that you pay more money to get information. And of course, they'll tell you to use cryptocurrency, gift cards, wire transfers, or they might even tell you to give them your bank account, or your social security number. Don't do it because that's a scam. Next slide, please. So scammers constantly change their tactics, but in general, they all want to create urgency, fear, and insecurity so that you give them your money or personal information. They just want to get you off balance. Here's some advice to avoid the scams. The government won't call you out of the blue with threats or promises of money. No government agency works that way, and neither do legitimate businesses. So if the caller or message asks you to pay a fee or share your social security number, credit card, bank account number, that's a scam. No one legit will demand that you pay with gift cards, like we said, cryptocurrency or wire transfer. And if someone asks you to pay that way, it's a scam always. Don't trust the caller ID, because scammers can make it show a well-known name or phone number when they really are calling from somewhere else. Check it out if you're worried about the message. Use a phone number or website or email that you know is real to confirm. Don't use the one they gave you because, again, that could lead you back to the scammer. Instead, do a little research and find the contact information yourself. Block unwanted calls and text messages. You can find out how to do that at ftc.gov/calls. There you can see steps to block unwanted calls and to filter unwanted text messages too. And no matter what they say, never act immediately. Honest businesses will give you time to think about things before you make a decision. Anyone who pressures you to pay or give them your personal information is at best someone you don't want to deal with, and at worst, it could be a scammer. And now Rosario will take over from here.
Thank you, Gemma. So I answered a few questions on the Q&A. There was one question about trafficking. That's really outside of our purview, so I didn't know the answer to that one. The other question had to do with gift cards and if someone can recover the money they paid a scammer with gift cards. That's why it's so important to bring the message of the payment methods. That, paying with cryptocurrency, paying with wire transfer, and with gift cards, it's kind of like paying with cash. Once you pay, it's gone. And that's why scammers really like that, asking to pay that way. So that is a sure sign that you're dealing with a scammer if they're demanding that you pay that way, or they're saying that those are the only ways that you can pay them in one of those ways. I posted the link to an article that we have on trying to recover money if you paid a scammer. If you act quickly, sometimes you can do it. But even if you can't, we list the names of the most popular gift cards and links to their department of where to report that their gift card was used in a scam, because they should know that too. The companies should know that their card have been used for a scam, and there's steps there that you can take perhaps to at least try to get your money back. So, okay, now let's talk about some of the different free resources that the FCC has available online and in print. This first website, in addition to obviously the immigration website and the refugee and the multiple languages websites that we've already mentioned, we have some specific websites that I wanted to run by you and to show you, just in case it helps you in your advocacy work, in your community work. Consumer.gov, and in Spanish, consumidor.gov. It's a website that for consumers who want just the basics information on consumer protection. It's written in plain and simple style. The FCC created this site for emerging readers in English. So sometimes people who have programs for English as a second language, to teach English as a second language, will use these resources. or or also just to learn to teach people how to, about basic consumer protection messages. The site has handouts, lessons plans that anyone can use to provide a training. It has videos that are very simple and PowerPoint presentations already that anyone can use in their trainings or in their own programs. The topics are broken into 3 areas: managing your money, which includes information on making a budget, including a worksheet that people find really useful, opening a bank account, understanding your paycheck, and buying a used car. The other section is credit loans and debt, which includes payday loans, car title loans, and building credit. And there's a session on scams and identity theft that covers, some of the scams we talked about today, and also identity theft. But again, everything is in very simple, plain language. And it's also a read along. So people that would like to hear the information and not read it can also use that feature. Next slide, please. Money Matters is our newest campaign. It's also available in Spanish at ftc.gov/asuntos de dinero. We created these resources in response to the economic impact caused by the pandemic and the hardships that many people continue to face. It basically kind of groups all of our information to help people and their financial well-being. So it just kind of like groups all of that information into one place. So you can find information there, articles, videos, social media, images that are very easy to share, and also sample presentations that you can use, just like in the consumer.gov website. So these presentations are ready for you in the different topics that you see on the screen. There's 8 areas of focus: borrowing and debt, education and training, buying and owning a car are some of those topics. But for each topic, we have links to the relevant articles, relevant blogs, consumer blogs on the topic, and then a sample presentation that anyone can use. Next slide, please. This next campaign is Pass It On. Pass It On or Pásalo in Spanish is one of the FCC's most successful and longest running education campaigns. It's based on research, and we created online and in-print material that are short and to the point. The audience is meant to be for older adults. The materials respect the audience, the fact that, older adults have had a lifetime of experience and may know a lot about scams already, and encourage people to share the information that they know, pass it on to others, and that way create a network of people who are talking about scams and frauds to help, spot them and avoid them. Pass It On gives advice on, how to avoid and spot and report problems in 13 different topics. So I encourage you to visit ftc.gov/pass it on, or in Spanish, Pásalo, if you work with older adults and would like to see the campaign materials and use them in your own outreach. Next slide, please. As part of our ongoing effort, you've heard me say a lot of websites in Spanish. We have pretty much everything that we do for consumers in Spanish. And, the fotonovelas, which is what I'm showing in this screen, is one of them. One of those campaigns. We developed the fotonovelas, like I mentioned before, just specifically in Spanish first. And it was a way to really get to the community so that people can, something that is culturally relevant on issues that we know that are impacting the community, either from cases where we have seen the Latino community specifically being targeted, or from reports that we get, or from talking to community members, just like you, and advocates. And so every topic has been chosen sorry, for those reasons. There's one on auto financing issues, one on telemarketing calls, government imposters, dealing with debt collectors, talking about scams, and student loan debt relief scams as well. So I encourage you to, if you work with the Latino community, there to go to our website at fcc.gov/fotonovelas to check them out. You can order them from there as well. And they are available in English online only. Next slide, please. And lastly, I know we haven't really talked about small businesses, but I always want to include this slide in my presentations because I want to make sure that people know that we have information for small businesses in English and in Spanish. There are scammers that are specifically targeting small businesses, and we have information about that, and also to help entrepreneurs with their cybersecurity needs. So we have information on cybersecurity for small business to help them protect their data and their networks. So with that, I'll leave it, pass it on to Gemma for the next slide.
Thanks, Rosario. Well, we've talked about a lot of different scams today. And if you spot any of these scams, we hope that you'll consider telling the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. And if we can go to the next slide, you can see what the site looks like. The next slide, please. This is when you go to reportfraud.ftc.gov. You will see this, an image like what you see on the slide. And when people see or experience a scam or other consumer problems, we want to know about it, even if no money was lost. The FTC uses these reports to investigate and bring law enforcement cases. And the reports also help us know what scams to alert people about so that they can protect themselves, their families, and friends. When you follow a few short steps on reportfraud.ftc.gov, your report is instantly available to more than 3,000 federal, state, local law enforcers across the country. And once you tell the FTC what happened, you're also going to receive advice to help you recover and to know how to guard against fraud in the future. You can also file reports in Spanish at reportefraude.ftc.gov. Not everyone feels comfortable providing information to a government database, but people can file anonymously, and advocates can also file on behalf of someone else. Next slide, please. Outreach is an integral part of the FTC's work to protect consumers in all communities. And as Rosario mentioned at the beginning, a big component of our outreach effort includes building partnerships with organizations like yours to deliver consumer protection messages in an effective way. So now that you're part of that network, we hope that you'll share what you learn with people that you know. And if we can go to the next slide. Here are some things that are available to you if you want to join us in the fight against scams. The best way to keep up with the latest from the FTC, including the top scams it sees, is to sign up to get our consumer alerts at ftc.gov/consumer alerts or ftc.gov/alertas de consumidor to get them in Spanish. And don't worry, you don't need to write this down. We'll be sharing the PowerPoint with you, so you'll have access to all of these resources. For even more advice about everything that we've talked about today, you can go to consumer.ftc.gov or consumidor.ftc.gov. There, you're going to find articles, videos, graphics about a whole range of consumer protection topics that you can link to or easily share on social media with just the click of a button. And all our content is in the public domain. That means that there's no copyright or you don't need permission to use it. You can just copy and paste them into your newsletters, add your byline, and really make them your own. ftc.gov/bulk order or ftc.gov/ordenar is where you can order printed materials for free in English and in Spanish. The FTC will also ship them to you for free. And whether you get these FTC materials online or in print, we really hope that you'll share them with friends and with families in your communities. And the next slide, please. I just want to say thank you to you and to Welcome in America for the opportunity to talk with you today. And Rosario and I are happy to take some questions now. Anthony, I'm not sure how you want to handle if people can mute or.
Yeah, Anthony, if you want, I can go through the questions that are on the Q&A quickly.
Of course. Please feel free. You know what, really quickly though, Rosario, before you do, I just want to share with everyone in case we lose anyone before they go. One of the reasons that I wanted to do this webinar, Rosario and Hema had reached out about our upcoming Welcoming Interactive. And when I learned about all of these great resources, I definitely wanted to do this webinar. But if any of you that are attending this webinar right now are registered to attend the interactive next month, they are going to be on site exhibiting. And so I'm very excited to kind of give you all this preview of all of these great resources, but you'll be able to take some time and talk with them. And I encourage you to do so, to not only talk with them personally, but also see the great resources that they're going to have there for you. So I just wanted to point that out real quick, Rosario, before you all move into Q&A. I'll turn it back over to you to go over those.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Yes, we'll be there. So that's great. And you also have our email on the screen. So feel free to reach out to us as well if you want us to do a webinar for your organization or be, I'm in Virginia and Hema is in New York, but, we have virtual platforms that we can be, we can do something virtually if that's something that you would like us to do. We would love to work with you. So what about survey links we received through email? Could they be scams? Yes, they could be scams. Our main advice with text messages is that scammers are also using a lot of text messages. There's a lot of government, just business imposters over text. They may say that they are from a company that but what they really want to is to click on that link and take you maybe either to talk to a scammer or to gather some information from you, personal information from you. I would just be, suspect of any text message that you get kind of randomly, that you didn't expect, and that is not something that you would have normally. And then if you wanted, you can also check, do a Google search and put the text of the that you got on your text and see if other people have received the same text and if they're saying that it's a scam. In terms of the Obamacare question, lately we have been seeing clients being contacted from Obamacare and have been issued a medical insurance card, CVS, Aetna. If you believe that this is a fraud, we would be very interested in hearing about it. So I would just encourage you to send me an email with any details that you have about that type of fraud. It could, I don't know enough details, but we do see people targeting specifically, immigrants in different scams, and they follow the news and they follow the headlines and they follow like what's going on. So they may use language that they know that people know, and use things that people need as the bait. In terms of the languages that they're asking, I don't think we have anything right now in Haitian Creole. We used to, and I think I'm not quite sure if we have it right now, but I'm making a note on that. We do have information in Arabic. So if you go to the page ftc.gov/languages, you'll see the 12 languages that we have information about that, on the different languages. For our Afghan communities, our resources available in Pashto and Dari. I don't think we have anything in Pashto. I know we used to have something in Dari, but I don't think anymore. But I'm making a note on those languages, and this is exactly the kind of feedback that we need, right? So that we can see, and let's see. Does commission offers presentation to local organizations, cities? Yes, we do, and we have regional offices. So we are, Hema and I are both in the head, assigned to the headquarters in Washington, but we have regional offices in Dallas, in California, in Seattle, in Chicago, and so in Atlanta, and so there are some local resources in those cities as well. So feel free to reach out if you have an opportunity. Will there be a chance to apply presentation like this in Spanish? We podemos hacerla en español. Lo mismo que hicimos hoy lo podemos hacer en español. We definitely can do it in Spanish. We cannot unfortunately do it in any other language, as we don't have any other staff that speaks any other language, but Spanish we can cover. So I'm happy to, if you send me an email, to set that up, either through Anthony or with you directly.
Rosario, there's
If there are
another.
times to,
Oh, I'm so sorry. There's another question that was in the chat about a parent. Someone find out about a parent that signed up for Obamacare and is afraid that she might have given her personal information to this individual. So I think the best resource would be to go to the identity theft website, identitytheft.gov, and just follow the prompts there. It'll give her some steps on, how to, if she wants to set up, freeze her credit for security purposes, just in case. She can find out more about pulling her credit reports, and it'll give her a plan if her identity was indeed stolen.
yeah, that's a great point. And with languages, because I see many languages, and with languages, I just wanted to know that we are totally we're totally are in touch with the fact that in language information is what really works, and we try to do that, and that's why we have some information in at least 12 languages. We would love to do it in many others. It's just a matter of resources, a matter of budget and actual staff resources, in the sense that you have to translate the information, but you also need someone that can review it to make sure that information is correct and it's culturally relevant and it's appropriate and it's the right message, right? And so, we have worked with partners to do that. So if you're willing to help us out, I would love to talk to you about that, because we have had partners who have taken the information that we have in English and then have translated it in their own language. We just had that recently with a tribal community that ended up, they translated some of our PSAs for radio on their own tribal language and run it that way. So it is a great collaboration. So I'm happy to work with you on that if you have that ability in the languages that we don't have. And there's a question about whether there's a time period where you need to report. No, you can report to us anytime. It doesn't matter when it happened. It doesn't matter if it happened a long time ago or if it just happened yesterday. The important thing is to have details and information on what happened. And we do know, I think Gemma mentioned this, but we do know that some people are afraid of reporting, or, they don't want to put their information in a federal government database that is accessed by other agencies and everything like that. People can report anonymously. You don't have to put your name or your contact information. The important thing for us mostly is to see what happened. And then also advocates can report on behalf of their clients. We see this a lot with legal aid attorneys, for example, where they report on behalf of their client. And the website, when you go to reportfraud.fcc.gov, it will ask you, are you reporting on behalf of someone else? And then you can put your own contact information there. So if the person that you're speaking with doesn't want to have their contact information, you can put your own contact information there. And then if there is an investigation, if an attorney needs to talk to the person to find out more because they're doing an investigation or something and need to find evidence, then they can call you and then use that, as an intermediary. So there are options for people who don't want to report directly. I hope that helped.
Rosario, there was another question about if people can get their money back if they're scammed. And I guess the answer is it depends, and sometimes it may take time, right? But filing a report, if there is a case, down the line where we're able to recover that money, then that money would be passed on to consumers if any money was recovered. I don't know if you want to add on to that, Rosario.
That's right. We have our redress program. So when we do get money back, like when we shut down, a company or an outfit, and we actually are able to get money back. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does happen. We have a redress process where we give people money back people that were harmed by that scam. But if the question is about getting money back if you paid a scammer, I posted the link of an article that we have on what to do if you were scammed and you paid a scammer, and ways in which you can try to get your money back. It's very difficult with gift cards and with wire transfers and cryptocurrency, almost impossible. But if you pay with debit card, there are some protections. So you could try to take the steps on our an article to contact the company that issued the credit card or the debit card, and try to get some resolution that way if you ended up paying the scammer.
And I see here there's another question about what will be the possible risk if my identity is scam or stolen, I imagine. There's several things that could happen. They could use your identity to get credit under your name. If they get pulled over, they could give your name and information, and you may have legal issues like that. They may get benefits under your name. You may have issues with your taxes too. If they're using your name to work, the federal government is probably going to ask you to pay taxes on those earnings, even though you were not the person who was working with that, or who had that job. So I think if you think you're at risk of identity theft, or if you think your identity may have been exposed, the best thing that you can do is go to the website identitytheft.gov. It's also in Spanish, robodeidentidad.gov, and you can get, just by answering questions, you can get more information on the steps that you can follow to recover from identity theft if it was stolen, or even put some protections so that they will notify you if someone's trying to use it.
Yeah, that's great advice.
All right, Rosario and him,
okay.
I think we've reached the end of the hour, and I'm seeing chats continue to come in, and I think we could probably keep going. Obviously, this has touched on so much for so many of our attendees today. So thank you both so much for putting this together, for sharing this time. And I know I'm excited to meet you all in person next month, and I'm sure others are as well. So thank you both so much. Just a quick reminder to everyone, as I said earlier in the chat, this is being recorded. Going to get this over to you with a PDF copy of the slides, so you can go back and refer to all of the websites and links that were shared. So look for that probably in the next couple of days, if not early part of next week, but we will get that over to you. And for those of you that received the link to this webinar and weren't registered, I'm going to make sure to get those added as well, so that will be included for you too. If you're not already following us, here are our various social channels and ways that you can stay in the know about Welcoming America and everything that's going on there. So please do that. And just in closing, I thank not only both Rosario and Hema, but thank you to all of you for joining the webinar today. I also thank those of you that shared some of your personal stories on scams that you or loved ones have experienced. So sorry about that, but I hope some of this information has helped you, and you'll be able to pass that along and hopefully stop some of this craziness that we see happening way too often. So again, Rosario and Hema, thank you both so much. Everyone, have a great afternoon and the great rest of your week. Take care.